So in today's video, we're going to be installing Labelle 106 grease in the Rivarossi Hiawatha. This is the grease that you guys all suggested. It seems to have pretty good reviews. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to go continue looking for Super Lube, which is what the people on the forum were suggesting, the Rivarossi Hiawatha forum. So I guess we'll just have to see. Anyways, evidently I didn't screw this down last time I took it apart. I'll clean the gear worm off just because I find if you just have like a little piece of hair or something caught in there, it will get caught in the grease and it will bog down the whole system. So here we are inside, pretty much just where I left it before. I just remembered I actually, the gear worm's not entirely straight in this frame, it's not built perfectly. And I just put a piece of cardboard there, I guess, to get the motor completely straight, so hopefully that will help too. So I think what I'm gonna do is take off the bottom. There we go. This comes off. I'm going to be interested to see if this thing performs any different, because of course these neodymium magnets have now been installed in this locomotive for several months now, so presumably the steel on the motor has probably taken on some of the magnet strength. Yeah, okay, good. So it looks pretty clean. I'm just going to give these a little soak in some alcohol. And, I mean, this is all clean. I really haven't added. I tried adding a bit of oil. That's pretty much the extent of what's in this thing. So, anyways, I'll just clean that out, and then we can install our Labelle. Okay, so I've cleaned off all the bearings. I took out the other set of wheels. As it would turn out, there was actually a little bit more dirt in there than I would have thought. So, I guess it was a good choice, in fact, to take this all apart. And I'm going to re-add a bit of, see, the bearings just need oil because the oil won't run away. The main reason you want grease for things like gear worms is because the oil will fall off the gear worms and it won't lubricate them properly. So that's why oil is now not so effective, in my opinion, when it comes to things like gear worms. Yeah, this all looks pretty good actually. So I'm gonna, I guess, just reinstall this. I just see a piece of dust. I'm just gonna remove that, otherwise we're gonna have problems later. So we'll just put our wheels back in. And they go in the other way. I have to say, Rivarossi did a very good job designing these things. They're so easy to work on, really. They're, I mean, the thing that makes them tough to work on is just because, you know, they're quite old now, and also the parts are not perfect, but the designs of the engines, inside and out, is actually very good. I have to be very careful. This thing is, of course, full of bearings, and if I move this thing just slightly, all those fall out, and I'd have to probably put in some new ones. These old models, this is the more difficult parts. They loved their bearings, which I wish more models did have bearings, because, well, that's part of the reason I think these motors have lasted so long, is because they have bearings in them. Most motors just have a bearing, which is just one bearing. These actually have ball bearings like large engines have, which makes them run so much more efficiently. Okay, it's now sometime later. I was able to retrieve all the bearings out of the engine, out of the gearbox, I should say. Optimally, you'd want to remove the motor, but I don't really want to do that because I spent all that time a few months ago straightening it out. Okay, we've got the worm gear in, or gear worm. Okay. Now I'm gonna need to add the brushings in. Apparently I removed them at some point, because I don't think... You can't take this out of the shell without removing the brushings, because unfortunately they stick out of this part. So, that's evidently why I removed them. Unfortunately, I can't remember where I put them. Okay, so I found its brushings, and just for a bit of context on how well this thing actually works, I just have to hold the tabs over the gear worm so it doesn't pop out and shoot bearings everywhere. I mean, it does it. Put half power on this controller. So it does do it. Fair enough. Now, let's see how well it works with some Labelle 106 added to it. So we're just going to put a very, very small amount over the gear worm here. Just distribute that a little bit. Now we're going to see on the same amount of power. It's running quieter. Now we're just going to do a minor test to see if anything has changed since we last tested it. There's like a million adjustments to be made when working with these old trains. Okay, I just loosened this a tiny bit. We're gonna see if she turns now. No problems. Now that we've got her all back together, we'll do one final test. My hands off the wheels here. Fair enough. So, that's our locomotive rebuilt.